Hey, how are you, Ron? I can hear you. Okay, let
I had to
me.
unmute. I had to unmute myself.
Yes, how are you?
I am well. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. I'm really happy that you are at this session now. How has you been?
Doing, pretty good. It's slowly people are starting to say,
Yes,
yes, let's meet in person. But it's a slow process, right?
I know. I know. It took me the longest to actually set up these meetings because I don't know if I've ever told you, but these meetings are supposed to be in person.
Oh, okay.
These HubSpot user groups are supposed to, be local. It's the get together version of, the tons of content that HubSpot provides. But obviously, because of COVID, you can and we were asked to set up these meetings in this format, and it just took me the longest to get together into how to do them using Zoom and all. But that's
Good. Yeah,
great.
well, I was pleased when I saw the notice for it, and I was like, oh, I should check this out. So,
Yeah, yeah. I hope you find it interesting.
well,
It's an
and I know we have other members, so I'm on the line, but so the Hispanic Alliance, we did our first virtual financial stability program online, right? And
yes.
we were like, oh, in person, we get, 30 to 50 people, depending on. And I guess they ran it through Facebook. And initially we had like over 300 people viewing. And
Wow.
by the end and after, because they recorded, I think they had over 800 views. So I thought, wow, right? We waited so long to do this, but
To
now
do.
that we're hoping like at least every other month to keep like a series going, right?
Yes.
Just kind of keep the flow. So,
Yeah, I agree. I agree. That and I am testing different formats. And hi everyone. Hi Chad. Hi Susan. I'm testing different formats because you are right. Is you can start with something that is close like this, right? But it's still interactive, not properly a webinar because it's not, right? It's
correct.
in a webinar. I think you are. People might be or not be there. This one you are kind of forced to participate, right? Because you have the video, you have the audio, and but if you extend that to put it live, then you can draw way more attention because you are running for half an hour or so, and then you have the on-demand version. So yeah, it's incredible. It's
Yeah,
incredible.
yeah. So
I
it's good.
agree.
And you look good. It's good to see you, right?
Thank
At
you.
least on virtually. It makes a difference,
Awesome,
right?
awesome. Hey Chad, how are you, man?
What's it? I was still checking, make sure I was unmuted. Yeah, I'm
Well,
good. I'm
Good.
still reeling from boot camp. It's like drinking from a fire hose.
Yes, yes, I know. And I have seen you're quite active on LinkedIn with the videos. How is that
I'm
going?
trying. I'm trying. I have posted a video every week since the first week of January.
Yes.
So
how
that
long
was a
are your
goal of mine to
videos?
do. Um, like 2-3 minutes
Okay.
to I think the last one was like 8. Sometimes they're a rant, sometimes they're a rave, sometimes it's like my commentary and thoughts on a book I just finished reading. That which was another goal. I wanted to read 12 books in 12 months, and I just finished book 14 today. So
Wow.
Nice.
That's
yeah,
okay. That's an accomplishment. That's great.
yeah. I my Amazon book habit is kind of ridiculous though.
But
You
Amazon
know,
probably sends you monthly thank you notes, don't they?
I do get a lot on Amazon, I will say.
it's curious because another thing that COVID had changed for me personally is I used to listen to books mostly. I
Yeah.
rather, I haven't actually sit and read books for years, right? Very rarely. If the content kind of like require you to have the book, then I will purchase it. But most of it was just audiobooks, a lot of them. But now it's like, well, I'm not driving anywhere, so I'm not listening to anything. So I started to, again, through Amazon, just like you, Chad, start asking for the books. And it's like I'm rediscovering the habit or the beauty of actually sitting and reading versus just listening.
Well, I I'm like probably a book person's worst nightmare because I highlight my books
Yeah.
like it's almost like a textbook in like college or whatever. I mean, my books are all highlighted, so I've got a couple of ebooks, but until I got my iPad Pro, I didn't like it. I bought like a Kindle. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna read on this digital, and it's gonna be cheap. And da, 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 da. No, I hated it.
Yeah.
The Pro with the pencil is a little better, but I still prefer like that hard book and just the highlighter and doing it that way. But it's been interesting. So,
No, I agree. For example, I know for sure that if I'm going to read, then it's gonna be a book, not a digital. I really don't feel comfortable. But I'm really used to listening.
Well, now I do a lot of podcasts, and before
podcast.
COVID hit, I would have more windshield time, so I would plow through some podcasts.
Yeah.
And now I'm kind of slowly catching back up on my backlog as things have kind of opened up a little bit. So.
Chad, if I can ask, I'm not being too nosy. So have you received traffic or attention from your online postings?
In my area, there's not a lot of people on LinkedIn. Honestly, it's been more a practice of me getting comfortable talking to the back of my phone when no one else is around. And hearing my own voice and seeing my own, like I've done video calls since I've like came to Cube Creative. So that's been 8 years. I'm used to talking to people at a screen. That doesn't bother me. But before I really started this and started trying to focus on it and really push myself to do it, I would just like freeze. And I thought when I started, oh, I'll have all kinds of things I can talk about. This will be easy. No, the hardest part is coming up with what to talk about that week.
Content. Okay. Thank you for sharing that.
Oh, no, you're fine. I mean, Amelia, no, I'll talk about anything. So
yeah, no, and I completely agree too. Is in my case, Ramona, what I'm because I have tried the format of chat, and I'm not saying that one is better than the other. I think it's as you are describing, Chad, is you have to find a format that works for you, right? Yeah. I have tried just being in front of the camera and try to talk about something, and I find it challenging because I try to have some structure to it and I fail. That's supposed to be more, you are more informal or something like that. Then I go to the webinar route. And what I don't like about webinars is there's a lot of interaction and making PowerPoint presentations. I don't really like them. And I have tried different. The one that I'm trying right now, but I only have a couple of weeks, is like a Zoom meeting like this every week.
Okay.
I call it live, but it's not really open to everyone. Just to the people that register to the event. But he shares something with that Chad is saying, which is you make a commitment to yourself, to a day and time to just sit and be in front of the camera and start talking, because that's really the challenge, right? Creating the kind of like the cadence. That's right. What's hard for me. And I guess once you start, if you keep it going for a while, then you eventually build a crowd, but you gotta be patient.
Yep. Okay. Yeah. Good points.
Hi, another Chad. Hey, Chad, how are you?
Hey, good morning.
How are you, man?
Good. Yeah, sorry I'm late. My wife had jaw surgery yesterday, so I was quick helping get some soup blended for her and didn't quite make the beginning of the call.
I know, don't worry. Let us start. Let's start right away. I'm sure. I think you, Susan, I remember you have been at least in a couple of events, right? Already in person.
Yes.
So everybody knows. I guess remembers me, not know me, but remembers me. But I want to obviously start with a little bit of a presentation. Let me share my screen here, and I'll start from there. Especially for you, Ramona, that probably in this case need a little bit of context of this event. So for everybody, again, my name is Emilio Garcia, and this is the HubSpot user group for Greenville. It's a group of HubSpot users, that in theory we should get together every 3 months. That's kind of like the cadence for this. Obviously, COVID disrupted that a little bit, and we were not able to get together on the second quarter. And this is my way of getting together on the third quarter. And we usually talked about marketing, sales, and service related to the platform HubSpot and in some way. So obviously this event, as you all know, is sponsored by HubSpot and myself as the owner of Bountify, B2B demand generation agency. I provide that content and points of discussions. And today we are going to talk about landing pages. That will be the topic. If you are not, if you are not creating landing pages on HubSpot, in HubSpot, it doesn't matter. Everything that we're going to talk today applies, to any platform that you might be using. But obviously, I will reference to the tool on HubSpot itself. I think I have a connection with all of you on LinkedIn, so this is not necessary. But there's something that I want to share with you that I was kind of like talking before, which is this thing that I'm testing, which is the Bountify Live event, right? So it's very similar to this. I try every Tuesday to discuss, to bring a kind of informal agenda, 1, 2, 3 topics. And if there's anybody there that has any questions, I try to explore that, right? I either share my screen or just have a conversation. There's sometimes, or usually there's my partner in the business is also there. So we try to have, discussions about marketing strategically, and then we go down to tactics if that's what's required. So I'm really excited about this format. And if you want to have these kind of conversations later on, you can follow through Bountify Live too. So a little bit of what I like to do before starting, if you can share with me, who you are, what role or responsibility you have, either on your own or a company you work for. If you have any experience with HubSpot, and don't worry, you don't have to have. And if there's any particular thing that you want to accomplish today, right? Any particular thing that interests you about the topic of landing page creation. So I will start with you, Ramona. And then
so Ramona Farrell, and as of or until September 15th, I'm a director with Greer Walker. It's a CPA firm, offices in Charlotte and Greenville. And so, Emilio, I had clicked in, added because of the landing pages, and we just went through this discussion where they were saying we need to increase our SEOs, right?
Yes.
Search and often, and just giving suggestions. And I just found myself going, okay, we should have been on top of this stuff a long time ago.
Yes.
Now I'm just going to fast forward. So September 15th will be my last day with the firm. It's a very amicable parting, though. I'm still going to do post events and everything with them. But so I'm going to form my own company called Farrell Insights, and I focus on business transitions, having discussions with owners, looking for gaps in the company, how to fill things, and then traditionally, I'm specialized as a fraud examiner, financial crime. So I do white collar, internal investigations, things of that nature.
Oh,
so I'm going to be like, it's a brand new day on September 16th for me. So I was really excited to get connected with you and didn't realize like I was really going to probably need you.
Yeah, well, I'm happy to hear this new stage of your life, Ramona. I'm sure you have much success. And yeah, anything that I can be of help, I'll be thrilled.
Okay, thank you.
Awesome, thank you. Chad, do you want to continue?
Well, I'm Chad with Keep Creative Design. We're based out of Asheville, but I'm in Wilkesboro, North Carolina, which is probably about 3 hours from Greenville, I guess. But I have actually made it to Emilio's hug in person, just because it was that good. Glad to be here today. I'm glad to be able to traveling to Greenville today. Also, I was in a boot camp, HubSpot boot camp with Emilio, so we've seen each other pretty much all summer now. So
yes, I know.
But yeah, I always look forward to when Emilio does something because he always does it top notch. So looking forward to it.
Thank you, Chad. Susan.
Hi, I'm Susan White, and my husband founded a nonprofit. It's called Fostering Great Ideas. and it helps children in foster care. So he happened to marry a graphic designer, which is me. So I help with a lot of the design and communications for the organization. We haven't done a whole lot with HubSpot, but we're hoping to do more this up, I guess, hopefully next 6 to 12 months. We'll be relaunching our website. And yeah, we've done so far one landing page.
One landing page.
And we came up, our stumbling block is that for nonprofits, there is not a donate button. You can't put a donate button on a landing page.
Oh.
So any insights you have on that would be great.
Yeah. Happy to share what I have seen so far. Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Susan, and say hi to David.
I will. He's on another Zoom call.
Great conversations with him. Chad, your last but not least.
All right, I'm Chad Warner. So I'm in Simpsonville, and I run Optimize, which is a web design agency that mostly helps service providers like IT companies, accounting firms, staffing firms. And almost all of our work is in WordPress. And so I'm looking for, Emilio, I'm glad that you said, this all translates to, other systems as well, just kind of landing pages, because we do online marketing, SEO, Google Ads for our clients. And so landing pages obviously play into that. So just kind of looking for, checking what we're doing against, best practices and just looking for ways that we can improve those. Our HubSpot experience is pretty minimal. We've done, some integrations with HubSpot CRM and have used the HubSpot sales email tracking kind of off and on. But most of our life is spent in WordPress.
Yes. Oh no, and I agree with you. It translates to obviously any kind of software. It's more of a concept, right, than tool dependent. So that's awesome. Welcome everyone again, and let us start right away. This is the agenda for today, and for those of you who have been on a couple of those, that I try to contain myself from derailing from the main topics, right? So keep me honest here, but this is the idea that I have today. So we will discuss why you should have landing pages. And actually, this is a very timing topic because nowadays, the use of landing pages, to be honest, is decreasing because content is being more available everywhere. So getting content is not as popular as it used to be. Right nowadays, the trend is to ungate content, meaning you don't put barriers for people to access what you are creating. But still, they are still relevant, and there are cases when you should use them. We will see the basic elements, the things that matter the most. Right? There's a lot of elements, but there are 4 of them that matter the most. How do you create them on HubSpot? And that's the part where I will focus on the tool, but a lot of it will translate to any other tool for sure. And how do you report performance? Again, this will be in HubSpot, but if you are not using that tool, you can always get that information through analytics, and it will be pretty similar, right? It's going to be just a little bit harder to get, that's all. So that will be the topics. At any point, please feel free to interrupt me, ask questions. It doesn't matter what point, and I will try to catch up at the end with some useful resources for you guys to follow into. So why you should have landing pages? The first thing I think it matters to do is tell what is it? What is a landing page? Well, technically, they are website pages, just like any other page on your website. However, the main goal of a landing page, which a website page do not share, is that a landing page is created to convert visitors into leads, right? So usually on your regular web pages, you want people to explore and go around without any particular goal in mind. It's more about engagement, I'll say. However, on a landing page, because the way it's structured, you have a pretty specific goal, which usually is to convert that visitor into a lead so you can know who that person is, right? And I like that comparison is when you have a visitor that haven't converted yet, they know you, you don't know them. And once they fill a form on a landing page, then you know them too. And eventually you can learn more about them as they interact with your website. And usually that's the goal. Another main distinction is that because you want to convert, usually, or pretty much in almost all cases, a landing page has a form, right, that asks for information, and that's how you convert people. So you have a form that asks different levels of questions, and after that, you send something or give something to that person. The way that you get to them, the way that you get to landing pages is usually through something called known as a call to action, right? It's just like a website button, right? But it's something that entices that person to actually do whatever is required on the landing page. So those are the buttons that you will see on a web page, as let's talk, purchase, donate, right? Or whatever action, learn more, watch video. So those call to actions usually send someone to a landing page where they're fill the form, even just subscribe to our blog, right? And it reflects the presence of an offer, right? And that's the other key component of a landing page. Usually you have an offer there that you're presenting yourself.
So Emilio, is that
Yeah.
something like that example that Susan, that they could use to attract that donator? Like, remember
Yeah.
she said she couldn't have like the donate button, but could it be a link to a landing page like that, where then if you click on it, you are going to go to a donation page?
Yes, it can be. That's correct. I don't know your particular case, Susan, but for example, I know that there is some integrations that you can do with HubSpot, both natively and through other parties, right? To actually have that flow. One of them is Stripe, the payment processor. You can integrate HubSpot with that, and then you can create a link, and that
Right.
you put on the bottom, and then you will be able to have donations. The other is less elegant, but you can use PayPal, right? And use PayPal processing capabilities too, because I remember PayPal allows you to have a specific donation buttons and maybe an account for a nonprofit, and you just put the link behind, or as Ramona is saying, a landing page, and your call to action is that please donate, right?
Right. I think the problem that we ran into was that it was a Christmas time, like special call to action to help siblings in foster care get to see each other. And so you could make like a $30 donation to pay for 2 kids to see each other. You could make a $90 donation to pay for a whole month of visits. There were different levels, but I can't remember the specifics, but it was too difficult. They couldn't actually choose the button or the amount to donate. They would see it in the landing page, but then once you got to PayPal or wherever, it was just make a donation. So you lost the levels of giving.
Right. Yeah, because that sounds more like something that you have to configure on the payment processor than.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Because another thing that you can do is you can do multiple buttons, just like a price page, and then you have one option, and people click on the different one, and you lay them out all together on the page. But yeah, we will see some examples and see what kind of like fits what you are looking. So this is an example. We will see a real life example, but you can see the design is a little bit different, because some things that probably will pop up to you will be that you don't have navigation usually. There's no navigation on the top. The form and what you are required to do is front and very clear to the user, because the expectation is that a lot of people will not scroll down. So everything you put above the fold, right? That's how I remember they call it from traditional media, I think. And usually after a person fills the form, that you have a thank you page. It's not required, but usually you have a thank you page where the person actually have or get access to whatever you were offering, either the ebook or just a message saying, you know, we will send this information to your email. And usually that thank you page helps you transition the user back into your website, right? You have, again, the navigation back, and you offer some other things to explore. So that's usually the way that you do. Now, obviously, you don't want to have the landing page and those forms just because. The reason usually you fill those forms or ask the user to fill the form is you start building and nurturing that relationship, right? That's how you eventually start marketing automation, or at least if you don't have that level of sophistication, you start not sales conversations, but some conversation through email with that person. You get access to the email account, and then you can share useful content and start a relationship that eventually might lead into a sale. So that's usually the beginning of a journey, right? Not just the end, because if not, then you just have this big database that just keep growing, but it's not bringing you anything. Does that make sense? Okay, very well. I'm going to stop here and ask you, do some of you, I know Chad have done web, landing pages in the past, but any of you have had any particular experience with them or something that they struggled with before getting into the big elements? Yeah.
So this is Ramon. I'm just thinking about in the accounting firm world, like they want to put everything on the page, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's very, very busy. And just through the examples you were like showing, I liked, like you had something that grabbed the attention, right? And then it was so reach out, let's chat, whatever, just to keep it going. But they're simple, right? Simple messaging. So I'm kind of like writing these notes, but it makes me think about the accounting firms and how we try to put everything on a page. Right. You just get lost a little bit.
It's true. It's actually a trend that I have seen in the past, because we used to make or help our clients to make tons of, or not tons, but most of the time when we are doing advertising, we need, as you're saying, right, a not clutter, not busy page. And usually our clients lack that on their websites, right? So we years ago used to make a lot of landing pages because we knew we couldn't work with what the client had on the website. Nowadays, website has transitioned more and more into the paradigm of landing pages. And even when the pages themselves are not landing pages, they behave like one, right? They have this hero shot, this clear headline, and they're less busy. So most of the time we can use them as a good starting point. And if we need more sophistication, then we build a dedicated landing page for a campaign. But I'm amazed or surprised that usual web design is following this criteria or best practices to just regular pages. And you will see, I will use my website as an example of how that's happening anyway. So now going into the anatomy of an effective landing pages, these are the four main elements that you should pay attention to. You have the headline, you have the copy or the subheader or a little bit of description. You have the image. Nowadays, it also can be, and more is a video. So it can be an image, it can be a video, something, a visual element on it. And obviously the form, the ask. So those are the four elements, and we explored them one by one. So the headline, and I'm grabbing an example here, right, is this statement usually is in the, I think they call camel case format, right? You have the capital letters, but and I have seen people that use, like me, only for the longer words, and for the articles they use non-capital words. But at the end of the day, is the statement that stands out, right? Is usually an H1 on the page, and it's usually what grabs the attention of the visitor the first few seconds. That's what they are paying more attention to, like this one. And you want that statement to really convey right away what is all this about, right? What is that you are learning? Just like when you are doing a Facebook post or a social media post, or like the invitation that you have here, right? Creating effective landing pages. That's how you know how this topic is going to be about. That's a very concise and powerful statement that you want to have on your page. It has to be the biggest or the largest text element on the page. That's really, really important. Now, the copy is where you can explain a little bit more about what you are offering. Is no more than a couple of sentences, to be honest, right? You don't want to make a blog post of this. And especially because it has to be about the fall, and I will put an example of that, then you don't have really that much space to write down a lot. So some people write a couple of sentences. Other people usually put some bullet points when you are talking about benefits or what you're going to get. You get a little bit detailed to build trust, but you don't want to create a long format on that. The image, obviously, it has to stand out. You want a strong visual with good resolution. As you can see, sometimes it takes a big chunk of the page itself. And people go here on different routes. Sometimes they choose an image that is very related to the offer itself. Sometimes it works out that you can use an image that is abstract, right? That is not really related just because it grabs attention. I'm not suggesting that you should use cats, right? They always work, but but think a little bit out of the box in terms of what you have to do. You don't have to put exactly, the topic that you're talking about. And for some scenarios, for example, usually putting faces and humans works really well, right? It helps to grab attention. So you have an image. Nowadays, again, some people are using more and more video. Those videos are usually short. Pretty much what they do is explain the offer, just like what you have on the copy. They are usually good for engagement, and both ad platforms and search engines reward that the user engage. And video is a great way to increase engagement because people spend time watching them, right? It's obviously a little more harder, it's a little harder to make and more costly, but nowadays, even video, I've started seeing, some stock videos that you can use to test out. So that's the third element. And finally, the form, right? Where you make the ask. The things that matter about the forms is that you reinforce what the user is getting and how they're going to, and what is that they're exactly doing on the form, right? If you say something like, you want the person to download an ebook, express that, right? Download the ebook, or download now on the register on the bottom where you submit the form. So these buttons have to be like a little call to action. And in terms of fields, the biggest recommendation that I have is ask as little fields as possible, right? Because and it's very interesting, right? Because the usually our clients want to know a lot about their users, right? Oh, well, I want to know the name, and also the last name, and also the email, and also the phone, and also the title, and you start creating this long form that nobody feels. And if they do, unfortunately, the user do not do a lot of things with that information, right? So it's great that you have the name and the email, because that way, if you're going to nurture that user, you can address him on the emails by name, and obviously you can send them emails. But if you're early in the journey, right, it's just a top of the funnel kind of information. They're not asking for a sales rep or a commercial conversation, then the phone do not make sense, for example, right? And other things that you can do to eventually know more a little bit about your user over time is that you can use something called, what is the word? Like profiling, I think that's the word, where you ask one question and then on the next time that they download something else, because you already have that field, you don't ask for that one and ask for a new one, right? Maybe the first time you ask for the company, and because on the next form that they fill, you already have the company, you can ask for the job title. That way you keep the information going a little by little. Forms in general is a whole topic out of itself. The other thing that I have seen when you really need long field, a large number of fields, is that you can break it down on steps. And that's another way to make people fill those fields if you really require them, because they make smaller commitments. And once you start, you have already invested time. So usually you finish, even if you have a bunch of fields. But if you break down, for example, 9 into 3 buckets of 3, more people will fill the form if you require all that information for whatever reason. One last recommendation that I have here is that when you have those multiple step kind of forms, you start with the less personal questions if possible, right? For example, if you're going to, I usually use the example of when you are quoting cars or quoting a service on your home. You might start with things like the zip code or the model of the car you're interested on, or the budget, things that are not related to your person, because those are easier to answer because you're still anonymous at that point. And at the very end, you ask for the name and the email, or the name and the phone number, because you have already committed to the other steps. You will finish those. But if you do it the other way around, right? If you start with name and email on a multiple step form, then you put the information that people is the most worry about sharing first, and you decrease the chances of someone filling all the steps. Does that make sense? So you have to summarize again the best practices on form as little information as possible, right? Enough for you to follow up the conversation. And the other big recommendation is to, if possible, if it makes sense for you, if you can do it, I highly recommend hiding the navigation menu, right? What probably you should have all the time, your logo and a link to your main page, because some people, especially if you send them to the landing page for the first time, they have never seen your website before, like an advertising campaign. Some of them will be worried about what company I'm sharing information with, and they will want to navigate to your website. But beyond that, you want them to focus on the goal in front of them, right? Every time that you provide navigation on the top, you are giving people a chance to get distracted and not completing the goal of the landing page. So I highly recommend that you hide the menu. It doesn't make sense all the time. There are some landing pages that are a part of the website anyway, so you still have the navigation because there's a way that you got there. But if you can, I really recommend doing that, and it will improve your conversion rates for sure.
Emilio, just so I'm clear, so the navigation menu, like on the main website page, you would see the navigation menu, which is that kind of the drop-down menu of choices
Yes.
and all at the top. But then when you go to the landing page, you're saying you're going to hide that. There still could be a link to take you back to the main web page, right? But you just want them focusing on the content on the landing page, and not, like you're saying, wanting to go up above and drop down menus and all of that.
Yes.
Okay.
That is
All right.
correct.
Just make sure.
And I know, the need to have the menu so they can explore more is really high for the creator, or from the designer, or from the owner. But you should restrain yourself from that. The landing pages are not the places where you let people wander around. You ask them to focus on the task at hand. And you will be amazed that most people just do very few things, right? They either fill the form or they just don't and go away. A way less small percentage of people actually scroll down, click on the logo and wander around. You usually convince people right away, or you don't. So that will be, yeah, a big recommendation there, Ramon. Now, what are the kind of like goals or things that you should try to accomplish when the visitors see the page, right? Again, repeating myself, is you want to make sure that people understand right away what is being offered, right? What is being offered. If there's any benefits to that offer, and you can add a level of urgency, right? It doesn't apply to everything, but if you can say this is limited offer, or it's just available to a very small amount of people. If you create that sense of urgency, that also helps. And obviously being very clear about what you will get. Are you going to get an ebook? Are you going to get a conversation with me? Are you going to get a product in the case of something that you are selling? And I will put some example of landing pages that I like, not just from ourselves, but from other companies that I know of. So how do you create them? This is the moment that I'm going to shift into HubSpot here. Let me go here. So this is the HubSpot part. I will try to, for those of you that have not used the platform before, HubSpot has 3 big components of tools. One is related to marketing, the other is related to sales processes, and finally the service portion. And so landing pages fall into the marketing portion of the tool. And there's an area here on marketing menu where you have the website, and you have these 3 different submenus. So where you can create website pages, landing pages, and blog pages, right? Which is a different thing related to content. So if you want to create landing pages, you go to this section. You will discover that they are pretty much the same. They're not that much different. The only difference, honestly, is that in the analytics, they have a space of their own, precisely because website pages usually have a lot of traffic, very low conversion rates, if any, and a lot of call to actions. And you want to judge more engagement on them versus landing pages where you don't have navigation and you have the form. So there's a lot of information about submission rates and that kind of stuff. But you are here and you have this big, right, orange button where you can create landing pages, and you just create that. And what it will do, it will offer you any of the templates that you might already have. For those of you that have used the tool in the past, depending on the version that you have, if you have the free version, you will have a narrower selection of pages to choose. Nowadays, the themes are the ones that are available here, and they have a few options here. And if you have the paid version, usually you will have access to the templates on the marketplace. Which is a great place to start. I will click here and show you. Here on the marketplace, because there are tons of options, you probably, what you want to do is to, let me see if, go to all, you want to select templates and you select landing pages. And for example, right now there are almost 1,000 options here. You will see all of them share the same basic principles, right? Right away, just on the thumbnails, you can see that you have an image, you have a form, you have a big heading, and a no navigation, which is usually pretty common. So I will select one here. Let me go to LPs, and let me look for one that I like. I will select this one, test. There you go. And so again, this is the part where you, for example, in WordPress, I'm not as proficient on WordPress as on HubSpot, but I know that probably you have access to an area, an editor, where you can have either a drag and drop area, or you actually code and then you go to another place and see what you're looking for. But this will be pretty much the layout, right? So in this case, for example, this is the area where I have my header, and you can just click here and edit whatever you have. on this portion, you expand the view and you can create it. Again, main points here is that you see that usually your header has to have the heading 1 or the H1. You can see it here on the code, right? That's the biggest recommendation. It has to be the largest element from the text. And this other area will be your subheader or the description. And this is usually just a paragraph. And you can see they're using both elements, right? You have a little bit of text explaining what it's all about, and then you have some great bullets here, some bullet points that usually talked about the benefits of the offer. And then you usually have a space for an image or a video. And this is very, very easy to also edit. You might have an image here and you can just replace it. And you can take images from your file manager, or you can add an image from different sources. There's a couple of options here. Let me go and see. No, it's not showing here. There's a couple of options here. Lately, HubSpot added integration with Canva. I don't know if you're familiar with that tool. No, Canva is like a tool that allows you to create designs for social media in general. So they make very easy to make those designs. So for example, here, if you can see here, I already have an image. I already have like a little text and some icons. And you can just change that to your brand and use it as an image on HubSpot. So it's very easy to manipulate. It's like an online version of Photoshop. And hopefully, I don't have here a power Photoshop user that will tell me, oh no, Emilio, what are you talking about? This is way shorter that you can accomplish there. Probably it is, but it's something easy to use. And you just save it and click it. For the sake of the argument, I will use one of our images, and you can see here, the image has been replaced. One thing that I like a lot about HubSpot is that it takes care of a lot of the SEO elements, Ramona, that you were talking about, right? It makes sure, for example, that you have an alt text if you have named the image already. And the other great thing that it does is that, let me try to show it here. It's not showing for this. It's not showing it for this, but the other thing that it does very well is that it will optimize the image, because usually the image that you get from outside are large, and it takes a lot of time to load on the web page, and therefore the user might bounce back. HubSpot would optimize the image so it makes loading time faster on mobile, for example. So you have the header, you have the text, you have the image, or you can replace by a video too if you want to, and it's very easy to do too. You select one of your videos here. Let me see if I can insert one. Remove, and let me insert the video. And I will just, for the sake of the argument again, just use one of the ones I have here. And then there you have your video, and it will run. It will be hosted on HubSpot too. And finally, you have the form. This is probably the most complex portion of it. The form will have a title, which is this portion on the top, right? Get the ebook now, right? And then you will have to select the form. And you can select any form that you have already, or you can create a new one, right? It's very easy to do. If I create a new one here, and I will put just as a test too, you will have fields that it will take from the contact database. So again, usually you need at least the email. But after that, you can, for example, ask for first name, maybe last name, you have the email. And instead of submit, you will have download now. And you update the form, right? Very easy to do. And you can obviously play with this a lot. After the user fills a form, you have a couple of options, right? You can either redirect them to a thank you page. So if you already have a thank you page, you can send people after they fill the form to that thank you page. If you don't have the thank you page or you want to do it later, you can start with just a simple inline message where you say, you know, thank you for submitting the form. And if you have a document that you want to give on to that person, you can say, here is your document, right? And insert a link to one of your files, right? You select one of your files. You might have, yeah, I'm going to select here an image, but if you have a PDF or something like that, you put it here. And when the person fills the form, they will see that message. So it's an easy way to start right away. And then you create a more sophisticated flow with thank you pages. And finally, depending on the version that you have, you can send notifications to some users, right? For example, if you are on sales, or if you want to nurture that prospect manually, then you can send a notification for yourself saying, you know, I want to know when someone fills the form so I can follow up on email. And I want to notify myself and my boss or someone else. You add those emails there. And if you want to create a workflow or follow up on those leads automatically, then you can add that person to a workflow, or just send a follow-up email. And it's very similar to creating a form. If you already have one, you select it from your menu. If you don't have one, you can create one right away. And you select like a template and send some information, and you can share the content. So some things that I have seen people doing, for example, when they are worried that people will fill the form with fake emails and that kind of stuff, is that they don't offer the content on the thank you page or in the inline message. They say something like, you know, thank you, you will get an email with the document, right? So if you provided a real email, you will get it. If not, then good luck with that. So that usually you accomplish through a follow-up email. And it depends on the industry. There are industries where that doesn't happen that much. There are others where, you know, actually you have to put captchas on the forms because there's a lot of spam there and fake emails. So it will depend. I usually suggest start with the least path of resistance, right? Offer the ebook down there. Don't create a thank you page if you don't have the time. And then you make a more sophisticated workflow as you have success, right? As you create the pages and see the reaction from the users, then you can create more things. Finally, on the back of the page, going to that SEO portion where this landing page is being indexed, if it's being indexed, you have the option here to create a title for the page, which is what, you know, will show up on the tab of the browser, like get this ebook now. And obviously great things about HubSpot is that it will advise you on how many characters do you have before like having one too long for search engines, right? Nowadays they have the option to create pages in multiple languages. And you can, if you have a website that have multiple languages, you can select the language and have multiple versions of it. You finish the URL, download ebook, right? This is the URL, how it's gonna look like. And you add a little meta description here, get access.
Let's get a question about the domain.
Yes.
If our website is not through HubSpot, can you still type in our website domain? Does it have to be? Does it have to be a HubSpot based website?
You have to have your domain connected to HubSpot. Yes. So the page can be hosted. You can have HubSpot comes with a like default domain tied to your account. Let me go there and show it to you so you can see it. So every HubSpot portal Even if you haven't connected any of the domains that you own, we'll have something like a system one, like this. It's under the hs-sites.com. And usually the subdomain will be a combination of the name of your company and the portal ID. So even if you haven't connected anything, you can publish your pages on that like system subdomain. The only problem with those is that obviously you don't want your users to go to that URL, right? It looks not professional at all. So you eventually want to connect your at least one subdomain from your domain into your landing pages. And you can have multiple subdomains for the different types of content that you have. For example, if your website is hosted on WordPress, then you don't host your website pages on HubSpot. Your www pages are going to be on WordPress, and somebody is doing that. And you can connect your landing pages to a different subdomain. Like, for example, it's not my case, but you can have something like go.bountify.io or LP, right? Something different. So you host your landing pages there, and your web pages are on WordPress. Actually, that's another thing that happens usually with most users that migrate to HubSpot, their content. They usually have their blog under blog.bountify.io, for example. So in theory, you can send your emails from email. Your landing pages can be on something like LP, Go, Learn, or something like that, blog, and your website is on some other place. Or you can have them all together on HubSpot. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. And the other thing that you can have is you can have they call it secondary domains. Is your brand domain is Bountify, but you, for example, can have something like Bountify, just like Go or blog, but you can also have it on the ending like us.us, for example. If you have that domain, you can have bountify.us. And all those domains that you connect are options that you can select here, right? So if you connect 3 or 4 secondary domains, then you can select from there and choose where you want to publish your landing page. Right.
Amelia, it's Ramonis. I was thinking like HubSpot was the engine behind the scenes, driving your website, your landing page out, right, to the internet. And then, but so your format or structure doesn't utilize WordPress. And I'm asking because from my contacts back in California, when the technology guys was saying, make sure you use WordPress, that would be like best. So now I'm just a little confused. So I have to do that outside or?
Yes, you are right. You don't have to host any of your content on HubSpot to work with it.
Okay.
You can have your website pages, landing pages, blog pages on WordPress, and just use HubSpot to measure and to, for example, do the other functions of marketing like social media, email marketing, advertising management, contact management, and you can have the CRM there. And usually what happens is when you have a WordPress website is that you just replace the elements that you want to measure with HubSpot elements. Like, for example, you can replace the call to actions or you can replace the forms. So your WordPress website will have the HubSpot form or the HubSpot call to action will be a WordPress page.
Okay, but it's integrated with HubSpot that way. Okay. Yes. And it wouldn't be a Ramona doing this. It sounds like I'm going to need some help.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. If you want to use a tool like HubSpot, usually you work through an agency or a provider or or if you want to do it through someone in-house, then you usually try to hire someone that has some experience that is certified in it, just like we will hire someone that has expertise on WordPress to do it.
Okay.
Yes. But yeah, HubSpot can host content, but you don't have to host content on HubSpot for it to work, to do what it can do, which is related to improving the chances of marketing, bringing business opportunities to the business.
Right.
right?
Right.
So, but obviously it's nice to have everything integrated, right? Because you
No,
will
it is. So I guess I would probably just have to understand better, like why I'm being encouraged to use WordPress
yes,
versus just having someone or myself create all the content through HubSpot.
yes.
And I just don't understand enough yet. And I don't want to take up everybody's time, but it was just interesting. I thought that's what I was hearing you say.
Oh, no, no, no. Trust me, it's a conversation for the ages. There's a lot of people, saying, well, why I think WordPress is better. I think HubSpot is better. At the end of the day, for me, it's not about what is better, but what is better for you as a user.
Right.
Honestly, what I say my prospects is, if the goal of your website is to have a lot of flexibility and design freedom, I guess, and that's changing over time, but still, I think an open source form or platform will allow you to do more things, right? Because it's open, it's not closed as HubSpot. Then you probably want to go that route. However, and this is a big however, if the main driver of hosting content is to drive business, to use the website as a business or as a sales channel, then you probably will be better off with a platform that takes care of the technical portion, so you can focus on the marketing portion, right? To make it easier for the user to accomplish those tasks. How I improve the chances that visitors become leads become opportunities, and that kind of stuff. That will be kind of like the example. And the other obviously is the agency that you work with, right? If you trust the process of the agency, they use a tool like this, then probably it will be smarter to use it. But again, at the end of the day, it must fit your case. So last few things that you can do on these pages is, and this is a whole topic of its own, but if this landing page is part of a marketing campaign, and what I mean by that is that this asset, with the call to action, with the thank you page, with maybe an email, all of that you encapture into the concept of a campaign, and you want to measure, how many people click on the call to action, how many people view the page, how many people fill the form, then you can add the asset to a campaign, right? That's what you select here if you want to. And finally, when you have a page like this, if you want to share it on social media, you want to make sure that you control the experience of the image that is being shared on social media. So you do that through something called feature image. And again, you select an image, and this will be the image that will be added when you share this page on social media. Right, so those are the big elements that you have here. You have more advanced features here, but usually on the back end, those are the things that you want to cover: the title, the meta description, what is the URL that you're going to use, and if you're going to have a feature image or not. All right. After that, you can either publish it right away, or you can schedule it to publish at a later date, right? Sometimes you want a page to be published on a specific date, and you can see it, and you can see you can have a little preview here, so you can get an idea of how it's going to look like on mobile phones, on desktop, or
that's nice.
Account. Yeah, and you can share the link to people to kind of like give you feedback on the content itself.
Well, it's nice having that preview though, right? I can remember doing stuff before, and then people would say, but hey, when I pulled it up on my phone, like the words aren't all showing, or the view was just different. And then you had to go like troubleshoot, right? Back through that. So that's nice. You can preview that.
Yeah, you can preview that, and you can share the link before publication with someone else, so they can see like a live version even when it's not published yet. Okay. Yeah, so they can play it, and they can open it on mobile and all this stuff, right? So this is a kind of like it will look like. So it's very easy. And again, usually when you select the template, even if it's a free one, it will be already structured on following those best practices, right? This is very known. So it will have the form, it will have the header, it will have the description. You just fill and put your content and put your brand on it, and your touch on it, right?
Is there a thought process on the number of landing pages you should have?
Great question, Ramona. Without considering the channels that you're using to bring traffic to it, I will say that at least you want to have a landing page per offer, right? And what I mean by offer is something that is worth exchanging information for. It can be an ebook or a guide. It can be a case study, for example. It can be a spreadsheet that helps you calculate something that is useful.
Would you, if you have like diverse, so for myself, right, I'll have probably 3 different service line offerings. So from the website, right, I think there would be a separate landing page for each service offering.
Yes, I have seen that. I have seen that. And again, to prevent you from not getting started, if you say, well, I don't have the resources or the time to create 50, well, start with one, right? That kind of like offers everything in one, and then you split them, right? And until you have covered all your service or offerings, and it can evolve from there, right? You can say something like, well, I have one offer, but one is for residential users and the other one is for commercial users. Then it makes sense to separate it and ask different questions. So you can evolve, but yeah, in theory, minimum is per offer, and then you can layer on top of that buyers or channels. That's the other thing. If you say, well, the offer is the same, but this page I would use to bring traffic from Google, and this other one I will bring traffic from Facebook or from my blog post, you can, if you want to, split the traffic and cater a little bit more to the users that are coming from the social media or coming from search or coming from your website, right? It doesn't have to be different, but you can kind of like make it more complex over time that way.
Probably depends on like the volume, right? I assume if you're having a higher volume, you might want to do those kind of analytics, right?
Yes. Oh, you hit something wonderful, because it's true. For example, when I knew very little about this, I got super excited about the idea of, something like an A/B test, like running experiments, changing images and buttons, as you said, testing ideas. But nowadays I have discovered that really you have to have a ton of volume to justify this kind of efforts, right? You really need a lot of volume to justify having multiple pages or multiple experiments running on them, because if you have very small volume, you will never get enough information in a decent amount of time to make a good choice, right? I'd rather say, well, if you like blue, put blue, right? So yeah, volume will justify creating more and more pages. Okay. That's for sure. And finally, I wanna finish with the reporting portion, because at the end of the day, you create these pages to accomplish something. And when you have many of them, you wanna know which of the pages are doing the best, right? So again, these will probably, there's gonna be something similar in other platforms that will result. I think Hubs will do very well because it's very easy. You get the statistics at page level, and you can have a view of all landing pages and compare them if you want to over time. So I'm showing you here the statistics that you can get at page level. It's pretty easy. I have, for example, this page here, and you can select your reporting period or time. You can go for, the last 7 days, the last 30 days, you can go for all time. And you will have some KPIs are usually relevant, like views, submissions of the forms, bounce rate, how many people actually bounce back from the page, how long they stayed on the page, something like that. You can see that performance over time, and you can see it by channel, right? So nowadays, for example, unless you have something very different from paid social, from paid search, you can get away having one page because it will split the traffic. It will show you the performance per channel on the page anyway, right? For example, and you can say, well, let me focus on, the traffic that I'm bringing on paid search, what's going on with them. And you can see the information here. And you can compare the channels, right? How many views, how many people is actually submitted the forms, how many contacts I'm getting out of them, out of that page. Let me change this. And you can select multiple KPIs to compare channels. Like, for example, I know it's, something simple like in paid search, only 4% of the people actually fill the form versus referrals, right? Where 38% fill the form. However, maybe I don't have a lot of control over the volume of referrals, and I have a lot of control over the volume of paid search visits, to give you an example, right? So you have all this information available here, and based on it, you can make decisions. And the other thing that I like a lot about this reporting is that you can put names on those numbers, right? If you say, well, I got 2 contacts, but who they are, well, you can click on the 2, and then you can see the names and the history of that person, right? And once you have them on your database, you can nurture and continue the conversation after that, right? Just as what are the key metrics that you want to inform at the beginning? Well, at the beginning, when you have little information about submissions, probably you just want to focus on views and engagement, meaning how much or what percentage of people bounce back from the page and how long they stay on it. Those 2 metrics of engagement will be important at the beginning when you don't have any conversion data. As times go by and people start filling forms, then you shift your focus into conversion rates, right? What percentage of people fill the form? And as more time pass by and eventually those contacts become customers, then you judge the capacity or the ability of the page to bring customers to you, right? That will be like the final stage of, and as you can see, and you were mentioning, Ramona, you need a lot of data to judge that, right? It takes a lot of time to judge the ability of a channel to bring clients. And I think that's all that I have for today. Any other questions?
No. It's very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Very well. I think that for today, I apologize. I extended a little bit over the hour. But if you want to have or continue the conversations on this or any other topics, again, I'll try my best to have these meetings at least once every quarter, hopefully at least every 2 months. But I feel very happy or very enthusiastic about this live idea because I will be there every week. At least that's my commitment. So sometimes it's going to be just a few minutes. Sometimes if people ask more questions, it's going to be more time, no more than an hour. So if you visit the website and subscribe, then you get an invitation and you can just hop in on the ones that you like or the topics that interest to you. And then the ones that you are not interested, then just skip it. All right. And thank you very much. I appreciate your time today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Emilio.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.